The Emancipation Proclamation was issued over 150 years ago. President Abraham Lincoln made this decision himself and announced it on January 1st, 1863.
It was a wartime mandate that freed the slaves, but only in the states that were in rebellion. That single act helped change the war from one about states' rights to one about the freedom of the people.
But slaves wouldn't really be free unless Lincoln could pass the 13th Amendment, which outlawed slavery. He knew he had to convince the nation to pass the 13th Amendment.
In this country's most trying time, President Lincoln did what he believed was the right thing to do, to win the war and reunite a nation that had been ripped asunder.
In late '64, when it seemed fairly evident that we would win, even though it hadn't happened yet, but in late '64, when it seemed fairly evident that we'd win, I pushed for the amendment to the Constitution to make slavery abolishment permanent, because I knew that the next man to occupy the president's chair could nullify the Emancipation Proclamation, and then what would we gain? And with the help of a number of senators, including Zachariah Chandler from Michigan, but especially Senator Howard, Senator Jacob Howard wrote that 13th Amendment. So there again, we're thankful to Michigan for the work that they've done both on the battlefield and in Congress for abolishing slavery. Well, I've always hated slavery. I've seen it, I've seen the effects of it, I've seen the way slaves were bought and sold. I've always believed slavery was wrong. I've said on more than one occasion that slavery is not wrong, nothing is. And to those people who believe that there was nothing wrong with slavery, I've suggested that they try it on themselves, and none has taken up that challenge yet. The dilemma that I had as far as what I could do from a legal standpoint was quite difficult, because what I believed in my heart I couldn't do really legally, because the slavery institution was a state issue. There was nothing in the Constitution that allowed me as president to abolish slavery. So we had to encourage the states to abolish that. What we were trying to do, really, not so much to abolish slavery in the states where it already existed, but to prevent its extension into the territories. My belief was that if we could do that, slavery would ultimately become extinct in the states. Now, of course, when I won the election, many of the southern states, of course, seceded because they were sure that I was going to abolish slavery, not realizing that on a legal ground I couldn't do that. And then, of course, you've got the radical abolitionists in the North who want emancipation right now. And I could understand how they felt, because I liked it myself. However, because I am bound to protect, defend the Constitution, according to my oath, I couldn't do that. But they were clamoring for this emancipation order. But from a political standpoint, I had the border states to be concerned about. If we were to issue an emancipation order right away in 1861, I am convinced we would have lost Kentucky. We would have lost Maryland and Delaware and Missouri too. And then where would we be? All those states would be fighting fully for the South. If we would lose the war, what would we gain by issuing the emancipation order when we did? So we had to, from a political standpoint, we had to do it at a time that was the most politically advantageous in terms of how the war was going. By the time we got to September of '62, it seemed pretty solid that we were in control of much of the state of Kentucky, of Missouri and Maryland, and Delaware and such. And by that time, slavery had been abolished in some of those spots. So then it was not so much of a risk from a military standpoint